Hey everyone, Sam Ovens here and welcome to this training video called New Paradigm and Worldview. So in this video here, I'm basically going to bring together all of the different things which we've discussed. So in week 2, we've covered a lot of ground. I mean, we literally covered an entire new paradigm. And a new paradigm is literally like what you have in your brain. It's your built-up collection of beliefs, analogies, frameworks, all sorts of things. I mean, a paradigm takes a lifetime to develop and build. And, most people, they do take a lifetime to build their paradigm, and they never change it. They never even understand that it can be changed. And it is quite literally the most valuable and most important thing that you can possibly have in your entire life, because with the wrong paradigm, you literally experience a different reality. With the right paradigm, you experience an entirely new reality where you're more in control, where you can achieve the things that you want, where your dreams literally become your reality every day. And so it's, if you get it wrong, you can suffer and have a pretty miserable life. However, if you get it right, I mean, you can have the wildest ride of your imagination. I mean, you can live life exactly how you want to live it. So it's my belief that your paradigm is the most important thing in the world. And so in week 2, we've covered a lot of ground. We've covered society's old paradigm. I've introduced you to a whole bunch of new theories. I've showed you how I've applied these things to transform myself. And in today's video, New Paradigm and Worldview, we're really just going to tie it all together. We're going to bring it all together into one cohesive paradigm and worldview, so that you can go out there and experience life in an entirely different way. You can live a different reality and really grab hold of the steering wheel of your own fate and your own life, which is the best feeling in the world, when you are in control and it's you that's holding the steering wheel. So let's jump right into this. So here's what we're going to cover today. First of all, we're going to talk about a fundamental breakdown in statistics and society's flawed paradigm. So I'm going to explain the way society views success and achievement in business and making money. They view it as a statistic that it's just totally wrong the way it's viewed, and I'm going to break that down and show you how it's flawed. Then I'm going to talk about separating your character from your mind and learning to observe its thoughts. So I've talked about in some of the other videos in week 2 how there's really two selves, really. There's the self, which is your character, and then there is your mind, which is controlling your character. However, a lot of other people come to believe that it is one, and a lot of people also believe that the character is controlling the mind. I mean, it's gotten quite mixed up, and I'm going to show you how you can separate those two and how you can learn to observe your character's thoughts. So you can catch those negative thoughts. As soon as they pop up, you can catch them, throw them out, and replace them with the right one, so that you can stop yourself falling down those treacherous negative feedback loops. Then I'm going to talk about breaking the character and learning to pull a gun when it draws a knife. So it's a funny analogy there. Might sound a little strange, but I'm going to explain that in more detail when we jump into this. And then I'm going to show you some personal stories and examples of how I've broken my character and become a new one capable of achieving new levels. So far, I've explained a lot of theory, and I've also explained how I've been able to use this stuff in life to achieve pretty big things. And, I've used it to be able to change a lot of stuff. I've been able to change my life completely. Gone from someone who's very shy and anxious and broke and not very smart through to someone who, is at the top of an industry, and in a very short amount of time, and with a very high net worth at a young age. So it's not just theory. I've been able to apply it to myself and change things, and I've been able to apply it to other people and help them change things. And to really cement this new paradigm, I'm going to explain some personal stories of how I've struggled, and I'm going to explain the negative thought patterns that I used to have and how I was able to conquer them. And my hopes are, by explaining those personal stories, it's going to really help you resonate with these ideas and help you understand everything. And then towards the end, I'm going to bring it all together. So everything we've discussed from video 1 all the way through to this video, I'm going to take all of the different stuff that this new paradigm and worldview is built up on, and I'm going to just bring it all together into one cohesive paradigm and worldview. So let's get started. A fundamental breakdown in statistics and society's flawed paradigm. So I like to use this example called the coin flip, because I'm sure everyone's flipped a coin, heads or tails, and I'm sure everyone knows how a coin flip works. It's like it's going to land on heads or it's going to land on tails. And what I want you to do right now is just imagine flipping a coin. Imagine just holding it on above your thumbnail and just flicking it up in the air, and then it lands on the table. So heads or tails, take a guess. And a coin, if it's flipped the identical way every single time, it's got a 50-50 chance. 50% heads, 50% tails, because it's just two sides of a coin, and those are the odds of flipping a coin. And society's current paradigm treats people and success as a statistic. And here's what society's current paradigm says. 9 out of 10 businesses fail. We hear this a lot. Being successful in achieving your dreams is statistically near impossible. It's being rich and being a millionaire is so far out of reach. I mean, you'd be silly to even think that you can achieve that. These are the things we hear. And people who are successful are lucky, or they had a fluke. And people who are successful are born with it. They're naturals, or it's in the family, it's in their genes. These are the things we hear. And here's what's wrong with that assumption. And a coin displays 50-50 odds because it is independent from the observer and it can't influence its outcome. A coin can't influence which way it lands. It doesn't have a brain, and it doesn't have the ability to think, and it doesn't have the ability to act. A coin is independent. We flick it up, and it just lands whatever way it lands. I mean, that's just how it happens. It can't do anything to influence its outcome. And this is, really how society views people. If you're born into a poor family and you're born not very smart or anything, well, society's current paradigm pretty much says, well, your chances aren't very high. The odds are against you, and there's not much you can really do about it. Or if you start a business, it's 9 out of 10 businesses fail, so your chances are pretty slim. This is what society says. It treats us as a coin. It treats people as a coin. But what I want you to do right now is imagine a new type of coin. So imagine if this new type of coin existed. And it's a coin with a brain and an arm sticking out the top of it, like this. And imagine a coin that has a brain, an arm sticking out the side of it, and it has the ability to think and participate in the experiment and influence its odds. So it has the ability to think, like, what side do I want to land on, heads or tails? And then it's able to flick with its arm itself over and land on whatever side it wants. So it's thinking and it's acting, and it has the ability to influence its outcome. And imagine if somebody pulled out one of these coins. Like, imagine if someone pulled it out of their pocket and asked you whether you wanted to bet on it. Would you consider it fair? Would you think that would be a fair test if this coin could think and participate? Would you be willing to, play heads or tails with this and think that the odds are fair, 50-50? Well, chances are that you're like, there's no way I'm going to play with this coin because this coin is biased. This coin can land whatever side it wants. I'm not going to bet on it because it's up to the coin. It's, I don't really have much influence on it. And would you expect 50-50 odds? You most certainly wouldn't. And a coin displays 50-50 odds because it's independent from the observer and it can't influence its outcome. However, a thinking and interacting coin displays odds that make no sense because it can participate in the experiment and influence its outcome. It can change things. And society's current paradigm treats humans as coins bound by fixed odds, unable to determine their own outcomes in life. And society is wrong. Again. And as humans in the game of life, we have the ability to think, interact, and participate in the experiment and determine our own odds. And it doesn't matter what side of the coin is showing right now, and what history it has of landing on a particular side. And by this I mean, imagine your own life. It doesn't matter if right now you're broke, and it doesn't matter if right now you're not successful. And it doesn't matter what history has to say about you. It doesn't matter if you've been broke your whole life, and it doesn't matter if you haven't been successful your whole life. You're not a coin which is just bound by fixed odds. You can choose, you can think, you can interact, and you can change things. You can determine what side you land on. And a thinking, interacting, and participating coin has the ability to influence its own outcome and skew the odds however it wishes. And its only flaw is when it forgets that it has this ability. And this says a lot about human beings in society today. Most people have forgotten that they have the ability to think, interact, participate, and change their life. That's really a human being's biggest weakness, is the fact that it has forgotten what it really is and what it's really capable of. And remember this statement. This statement should just really be resonating and ringing through your brain by now. And it's because I've said this over and over again, but this really is the most important thing, really. If I could remember one thing, it would be this, because this is the one thing that I never want to forget. And it doesn't matter what is true, only what you believe is true, because with work, that will become true. So it doesn't matter what the truth is right now. It doesn't matter if you're broke right now, beaten down right now, depressed, and it doesn't matter if life's got you up against the ropes right now. It doesn't matter. It only matters what you believe is true. If you believe that you are capable, if you believe that you can achieve your dreams, if you believe that you can start a business, if you believe you can make money and get clients and be smart, then if you believe that, then you'll put in the work. And by the work, I mean, doing this program, finishing the program, completing the worksheets, and then taking action, picking your niche, crafting your offer, all of that stuff. Because belief with work will become true. That will become your new reality. And here is really the master algorithm of all evolution, and the master algorithm of the universe, and the master algorithm that's in your mind. And it's action, reaction, belief, and reality. And it's a vicious circle. It goes around and around and around. And there's no real start and end because it's a circle. And so we just have to kind of drop into this circle. We have to choose a place to drop in because there is no start or end. And where we want to drop in and intervene is right here. It says intervene here by changing your thoughts and beliefs. You want to change those first. A lot of people, they walk around in life and they're like, I'm going to wait until my reality changes and then I'll make an effort. And you'll be waiting your whole life, and it won't happen. And you have to intervene. You have to change your beliefs first. And once you change your beliefs, then you will take action in accordance with confidence with your beliefs. And then when you have a belief and when you take action, you experience a reality and a confirmed becoming. And then based on that, based on the results you see in your own life, you experience feedback, and then you adjust your beliefs and you adjust your actions, and you just keep going around again, 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 and again. And that is how you achieve. That is how you grow. And it's amazing how powerful this is. So next time you think the odds are against you, remind yourself that you have a hand in determining those odds yourself. You know, when people talk about odds, and I hear people say odds all the time, like, oh, you can't spend more than this on Facebook ads, or you can't do this because, the odds, I've seen the odds and it says you can't do this. Well, you make the odds. And I've gone again and again and again and again, thousands of times against the odds. And I just bend them to behave the way I want them to behave. Because I make my odds. And you do too. The only problem is that you forgot and you don't believe it. Now let's talk about separating the character from the mind and learning to observe its thoughts. And this is really important, so you want to pay close attention to this. So I've talked about in one of the previous videos in the Alchemy of Self, separating the mind from the character. And I talked about how your character is, who you think you are. And your mind is what's controlling that. And so your character takes orders from the mind and gets it done. And your mind determines what you want to achieve in life and sets the dreams and goals and then dictates orders to the character for execution. So if you want to be a really powerful and really evolved and developed human, you want to separate mind from character. You want to not see yourself as one, but see yourself as two. You want to view, your thoughts and your mind as the controller of the character, and the character is, your body, it's you walking around. And most people have let their character take control of the master. The character's running the show. It's walking the hand itself. And your mind is the master, and it can make the character dance whatever way it wants. And so, when you get a really strong mind, and when you separate the character from the mind, and you really break it and control it, then you can make your character do whatever you want it to do. You can really make your character dance, and you can put it into life every day, and you can make it do the things you want it to do so that you can achieve the outcomes that you want to achieve. It truly is the most powerful and most awesome thing to experience in the world, that you really want to learn how to do this, because things you have been afraid of your whole life, things that you've wanted to achieve your whole life but thought were out of reach, once you can do this, you'll just march right in and take it, and it will be yours because you won't have fear. And here's how you create that separation. And you have to learn to view yourself in the third person view as an observer and a master of your character. So right now in this photo, we're viewing from the third person, and we're viewing behind the head of the character. We're separate. When we're viewing in the first person, we're viewing within our own body, and we're viewing out of our eyes. And, we are our character, and it's hard to control ourselves because we're within ourselves. And we're very reactive. We are controlled by our emotions a lot. We're controlled by our thoughts. We're controlled by all sorts of things when we're in our own character. But when you learn to step outside of your character and view from behind and view from the third person, you can control your character like it is a video game player. In a lot of video games when you're playing, I don't know any because I don't play video games, but when you're behind, you're controlling your character and you can kind of see it walk around, and you don't have fear. You're not worried that your character's going to get hurt when it runs out and tries to do something. You're not worried about it. You just control your character. You throw it into whatever situation you want it to go into. And this is how you want to start observing yourself. You want to really step outside of yourself and learn to view yourself in the third person. And this is what I do. Whenever I'm in a difficult situation, or whenever I'm in a situation where there's a lot of emotions involved, or whenever I'm in a really hard situation, like I'm in a lot of pain, I might be waking up extremely early and I might have only had 2 hours sleep, or I might have stayed up the entire night working on a massive issue in the business and I've had 0 sleep. And I've got a full day ahead of me of like 8 strategy sessions and a meeting and all this other stuff. You're in a lot of pain, you're tired. You want to just go and give in. And, I've learned to step outside of myself and just be like, nope, you are doing what I say. And I can make it do whatever I want. And it might sound strange to you right now, but when you learn how to do this, your pain tolerance will be insane. You won't have fear anymore. You can do whatever you want. And, you'll have ultimate control of your character. And you might be thinking, but what if the feelings and thoughts are so powerful that you can't override it? What if when you wake up in the morning, those feelings to go back to bed are so intense that you just have to go back to bed? Or what if you get into work and you've got to make some calls, and that fear that comes over you and dawns over you like a dark cloud, what if that fear is so intense that you just can't fight it? Well, I've got this saying, and when your character draws its fists, pull a knife. And when it draws a knife, pull a gun. And you must set the desire, the dream, and the goal, and then dictate them to your character for execution. And if the character kicks back, give it more. You've got to learn to fight it. Because if you don't control it, it will control you. And if it controls you, then you don't have any control anymore. And so, this is a very, very important thing to do. And it took me a while to teach myself how to do it. But for example, if I wake up first thing in the morning, the first thought that comes into my head is, I'll go back to sleep. But now what happens is when I wake up in the morning, that thought comes in there and I'm like, no, there's no way I'm listening to that. And I'm like, I throw myself out of bed. I throw my character out. I'm just like, don't even think, feet on the floor, out. And then the last thing I feel like doing is going to the gym. And I've taught myself to wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning, sometimes 3:30 a.m. in the morning. It's pitch black. And I don't feel that great a lot of the time when I wake up at that time. I don't think many people do. And you definitely want to go back to sleep, especially in winter when it's negative in New York here, and it's all black and it's snowing and everything. But I just throw myself up, get up, and then I go to the gym, and I just go and do a workout. And so I've gotten good at fighting my character. When I wake up in the morning, my character sticks up its fists. It's like it wants to have a fight. It's like, I want to go back to sleep. And then when I want to go to the gym, my character sticks up its fists again. But I've learned when my character draws its fists, I pull a knife. And then if my character pulls a knife, then I just pull a gun. And whatever my character pulls out, I pull out something bigger and I fight back and I kick it back. And you've got to learn to do this if you want to learn to take control of your character. Now let's talk about some personal stories and examples of how I've broken my character and become a new one capable of achieving my goals. So here's me when I got started. I was like 21 years old, broke, shy, and anxious. And then here's me now, and companies making more than 20 million a year, own consulting.com. I live in this place in Manhattan with this view, and I'm quite outgoing compared to how I was back then. So, here was me when I was 21 years old and pretty much making nothing, shy and anxious. And then here's me now making more than 20 million living in Manhattan. And you can see this exponential curve here. Well, along this journey, my character kicked and screamed. And it told me to throw in the towel and return to just being me countless times. Every morning I got up and had to work on my business and work on my dreams. My character, it dug in its claws. It wanted to just stay exactly where it was. It was screaming at me. It was like, this isn't you. You're not this kind of person, and you shouldn't do this, and just go back to being yourself. Just go back to, the life that's comfortable. And it did this to me countless times. It was literally breathing down my neck every single day, and it had me in its grips. And at first, I listened to it. I was like, I better listen to this feeling. And it got me nowhere. All it got me was feeling more depressed because I couldn't fight it. And if I told it to take action and get outside of its comfort zone, it would kick back and overpower me with emotion and endless thoughts. It was powerful. It would just release these emotions which would just take control of me. And then it would release these negative thoughts that I couldn't get out of my head and I couldn't fight it. And zero progress was made until I learned to fight back and break the character and show it who's boss. And when my character drew its fists, I pulled a knife, and when it drew a knife, I pulled a gun. And over this course of exponential growth and exponential change, the real secret that I have, which I'm explaining to you in this training, is that I'm not the same person now as I was back then. I've evolved myself, and not just once, but multiple times. And, we can kind of see here on this chart, there's like Sam version 1.0, version 2.0, version 3.0, version 4.0, version 5.0, and truthfully, there's probably a lot more versions than that. But every time I want to make growth in my life, I have to evolve myself. And then, you're never done with evolving. That's the thing about evolution. It doesn't just end. It is forever moving, changing. And so, it might sound silly to you now, but, just recently I had a plateau of making about $2 million a month. I know you might be thinking, who would call that a plateau? But I'm telling you, it's just as painful being stuck there as it is being stuck at being broke, because all we want to do is grow and improve ourselves. And so, you have plateaus at any income level. And so, I had a plateau there. And even when I'm making $2 million a month, I have to evolve again. I have to transcend myself. I have to learn how to change myself, because you're never done growing and evolving. You've always got to keep moving forward. You've always got to keep evolving. And so, version 1.0 of myself was the longest period of myself, because I didn't really know I could change. And I didn't experience any progress until I changed. And then the more I changed, the more progress I started to see. And the same will be true for you as well. The person you are now is not the person you will be when you achieve massive success. You'll be a different person. You will be completely evolved. And all of my business and life success has happened through evolving myself, breaking my character, and replacing it with a new one capable of achieving bigger goals. And success happened to me when my character no longer had me in its grips. And I was free to evolve my character in the direction I wanted it to go and become whoever I wanted to be. Now let's talk about some personal stories and real-life examples to help you understand. So, I'll just be totally honest with you. When I was younger, at school, I used to eat a bar of soap to avoid public speaking, because, you have these, well, in New Zealand, it might be the same in America, I don't know, but in New Zealand we had speeches, and we had to do a speech each year, and whenever it was speech day, I would always just eat a bar of soap, because then I could act sick, and I could say to my mum, I can't go to school today, I'm sick, and then I'd stay home. And, I'd actually eat soap and make myself sick to avoid going to school and public speak. I was that shy and anxious. And I thought I was dumb. And my teachers always said I was dumb. I thought that I don't know times tables. I thought I don't know how to spell. And I thought, I don't know anything. I thought I was stupid and dumb. And other people said I was too. And I could hardly get out of bed in the morning. When I started my business, I could hardly get out of bed in the morning because I was too afraid to speak to prospects on the phone. I was terrified of the phone. And I couldn't get things done because I was so tied up in my thoughts about the future. I couldn't get out of my own head. I couldn't take action. I was paralyzed. And my confidence was so low that I was horrified of competition and never believed I had a chance. Every time I got up and started my day, I would look at the competition and I'd just be so terrified because I was like, oh, they're so much better than me. They know so much more than me, and there's no way I can possibly compete. And, here's the early evolution of myself. And here's me and all of my issues, paralyzed as myself, dreaming of the person I wanted to become, version 1.0, and here's version 2.0, me free of those issues and evolved into a new person. And how did I evolve myself, you might be wondering? Well, I learned the markers of my existence. And you remember the pattern of existence worksheet and learning the well, what we can do is we can learn the markers of our existence. So we've got two types of markers. We've got peak markers and we've got trough markers. And peak markers are events or thoughts or patterns that start occurring right when we kind of get to the peak of our performance. So, if you, in your bank account, you might go up to, say, $5,000, and then when you get to 5,000, you might start thinking, oh, like things are good and everything, and then you might start browsing on the internet for clothes to buy or something. And then you start doing that, and before you know it, you've started buying things, then you've bought more things, and then all of a sudden your money's gone. And that would be a peak marker when you start to look at things on the internet to buy. And then a trough marker is something that you do at the low, just before you start climbing up again. So that might be when your bank account gets to $500 and you start panicking. And then when you panic, you might start all of a sudden pulling into gear, being productive, waking up on time, making sales and making money to pull yourself up out of that trough. Well, you could learn those peak markers and you could learn those trough markers. And the other thing you want to look at is your pattern of existence pitching up or pitching down? And pitching up is when, over time, like over the course of 3 days, 2 days, 1 week, 1 month, or whatever, you should be going up. Your bank account should be going up, or your performance at the gym should be going up. And a downwards pitch is when things are going down over time. And here's the thing, there's no such thing as staying where you are in life. You're either moving forwards or you're falling backwards. And there's no such thing as staying where you are. There's no such thing as a flat line. Everything in life is either pitching up or pitching down. If you're not getting better, then you're getting worse. And there's no such thing as staying where you are. And if you think you're staying where you are, well, you're really lying to yourself because you're really going backwards. And here's some stories of how I did this. So I was so afraid of facing the day and making progress in my business that I couldn't get out of bed in the morning. And, I'd just curl up in bed. I couldn't go out and face the day. And here's kind of the thought pattern that happened. So I'd wake up, then I'd think about getting out of bed, and then I'd lie to myself about the benefits of staying asleep. I'd say things like, oh, if I sleep in, I'll be more focused and I'll have more clarity, and I'll probably do better work, and then I'll probably make more money. So I'd tell some lies to myself. And then I'd deny the responsibility to improve my life. I'd be like, oh, I don't really need to do anything. It's not really up to me. And then I'd listen to my thoughts, and I'd listen to them. I'd be like, okay, yeah, that's what I should do. And then I would go back to sleep. And then what would happen is I'd regret staying asleep. Later on in the day, I'd regret it. I'd be dreading it. And I'd regret staying asleep and I'd start beating myself up. And then, to make myself feel better, I'd promise myself that was the last time. I'd promise myself, not again. And then, guess what? I'd just do it all again. And each time I did it, it got worse. The feelings got worse. The dread got worse. The self-hate got worse every time. And it got harder to break each time I did it. And this was the pattern. And I learned to spot this pattern. I learned to separate my character from myself. At first, I just viewed myself as one thing. I was just like, this is me, this hunk of flesh here in this world. And, I wasn't sophisticated enough or evolved enough to be able to split myself apart like that and view my character separate from my mind. And when I learned how to split my character separate from my mind, I could learn to observe the thoughts of my character. And if my character started thinking, it's time, started trying to sell me on the benefits of going asleep, I'd be like, wait a minute, I understand this pattern. I've seen this pattern before. And then I'd intervene And I'd be like, nope, you're getting up. And so I learned to observe the pattern, and then I caught it. And I separated my mind from my character, and I learned to observe its thoughts. And I learned the thought pattern. And my character had become so strong that it had me in its grips and was constantly breathing down my neck every morning when I woke up. And how did I fix it? Well, when my character drew its fists, I pulled a knife. And when it drew a knife, I pulled a gun. And I decided to wake up earlier than ever. And the moment I woke up and had thoughts of going back to sleep, I attacked it front on by getting up and going to the gym. The last thing I wanted to do was wake up early, and the last thing I wanted to do was wake up early and go to the gym. And so what do you think I did? I threw my character into battle. I made it, if I was used to sleeping until like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, I was like, this character's going to now get up at 4. And I never used to go to the gym, so I was like, not only are we going to wake up at 4, but we're going to go to the gym, and it's not going to be a small workout, it's going to be a brutal one. And that's what I did. I threw my character into battle, and when it pulled its fists, I pulled a knife. And when it drew a knife, I pulled a gun. You've got to learn to fight back. And then when I learned to fight back, 1 day became 2 days, then 3 days, then 7, then 2 weeks, then 3 weeks, and then an entire month. And then something strange happened. The characters' voices had gone. When I woke up in the morning, the character voices weren't there anymore. I was like, I'd wake up now and I open my eyes and I'm like, I'm waiting for it, and I'm like, where are those thoughts? They're not there anymore. And now when I open my eyes, they're just open. I'm not tired at all. I just sit straight up, put my feet on the floor, and I'm up, and there's nothing. There's no voices anymore, and there's no character that has me in its grips because I obliterated it. And I evolved into the new me. This is when you've transcended yourself and broken one of your thought patterns. You evolve. And here's another one. So I was so terrified of talking to people on the phone that I put off making calls for 3 months and invented things to do to avoid the important. I'd get into the office, and by office I mean my parents' garage, and I would think, okay, I've got to start making some calls. But then I'd look at the time and I was like, oh, it's 9 a.m. People will probably just be getting into the office. I'll wait until about 10 or 11 o'clock. So I did that. And then at 10, 11 o'clock, I was like, oh, people are probably just going out for lunch. I'll wait until they get back from lunch. And then it would come about 2 or 3 o'clock, and then I'd be like, oh, it's probably the end of the day. People are probably packing up, they're probably having meetings, they're probably getting ready to go home. So I was like, okay, I'll just call them back. I'll call tomorrow. I'll do these calls tomorrow. And then tomorrow would come around, and I'd do the same thing again, and again, and again. And this became everything. This became the thing that just terrorized me. And here's how this thought pattern looked. Start the workday, know that I need to make sales to grow my business, lie to myself that it's okay not to sell today and just read some blogs and watch some videos, and then deny responsibility for my financial situation, and then listen to my thoughts and delay sales another day, and then regret my decision, and then promise myself tomorrow is the day, and then repeat it all over again. And what I learned is to separate my mind from my character, and I learned to observe its thoughts. I learned the pattern, and my character had become so strong that it had me in its grips, and it was constantly breathing down my neck every morning when I woke up and got into my office. And how did I fix it? Well, when my character drew its fists, I pulled a knife, and when it drew a knife, I pulled a gun. And when my character thought about putting sales calls off another day, I looked it in the eyes and I made it do 20. And if it didn't like doing 20, I made it do 30. And if it didn't like 30, I made it do 50. And I just learned to fight it. I learned to overpower it. And I learned my patterns, and I took control and evolved myself. I went from Sam version 1.0 to Sam version 2.0. And version 1.0 was me and all of my issues, paralyzed as myself and dreaming of the person I wanted to become. And version 2.0 was me free of those issues and evolved into a new person. And every time I evolved myself, I found myself in another rut, facing issues again, but at another level of play. And what I mean by another level of play is, like I just told you, I've experienced plateaus now, but they're at like $2 million a month. So, I had to evolve myself just recently to be much more of a team player because, I used to be a solo kind of entrepreneur, and that was fine. But now in order to do better, I need to really, focus on my team and building a culture and all of these things which I never had to do before, and things which I thought weren't important and put off. And, now I'm forced to evolve myself to do these things. And I learned my patterns and took control and evolved myself. And I went from Sam version 1.0 to version 2, version 3, version 4, version 5, version 6, version 7, version 8. There's probably a lot more than this. And I just keep evolving, and that's how I keep growing. That's how I keep improving myself and improving my business and improving my life and everything. And so if you're wondering how this exponential curve occurred, it's because I learned to evolve myself. And this person here, at me at 21, I dreamed of being wealthy. It was a dream, but my standards were just me lying in bed, feeling sorry for myself. And the person I am now, wealth is a hygiene standard. So I don't dream about being wealthy. I can't. It can't even exist. I can't not be wealthy now. It's a hygiene standard. Just like not eating like rotten chicken is a hygiene standard for you, not making $2 million a month is like worse than eating rotten chicken for me. It has become a hygiene standard. It's not a dream anymore. It's a standard. It's something I simply will not tolerate anything below. And that is the sort of relentless attitude you need to apply to your goals. If you want to achieve them, you need to take your dreams and make them not dreams, but standards. And the only way you do that is by evolving yourself into a new person. And evolving myself was the only way. It was the only way to bridge this gap. And a lot of people don't understand this. A lot of people don't understand that the person they are right now is not capable of achieving success. You have to become a new person and step into the success with it. Now let's talk about bringing it all together into one cohesive paradigm and worldview. So we've discussed a lot of different things. Week 2, it's been a big week. We've covered a lot of stuff. It's probably blowing your mind, all these different things. And now what I want to do is bring them all together, wrap it all up, and tie it all together into one cohesive paradigm and worldview. So here's society's current paradigm. Here are the different things which we've discussed. So number 1, misunderstanding in the psychology of the self and creation of the identity. Then number 2, a bias towards the material and the physical. Number 3, a false perception of entitlement and authority. And number 4, a dualism and perception of one right and one wrong. And then this should say 5. 5, contradiction of the two sciences. And then 6, birth of the victim and their story. And then 7, mistaken view of cause and effect. So this is society's current paradigm. What I'm going to do right now is just roll through each one of these, explain how they're wrong, and then explain the right way to view things. And I'm going to introduce you to the founding principles of this new paradigm which I've invented and brought forward here, called the Alchemy paradigm and worldview. So, this society's current paradigm, it leads to this end result. This is the main problem. We believe that the world is round, and we believe that, it's this earth here, and then we believe that we are born into this earth. We're just born, we become conscious, and then we live our lives. Just little us, separate from everything. and then we die and we leave. So, there's this earth, we're born, and then we die and we leave. And that's what we believe. And, we also believe in classical physics, which is like, that's a tree, that's a desk, and that's a person. And we believe all of these different things are physical, material, we can touch them and everything, and that we're separate from all of these things. And we believe that, we're born, and that's when we become conscious, and then we have our life, which is when we're conscious, and then we die, and then that's where we lose consciousness, and that's it. And that's just it. And we also believe that, we are a physical body of like muscle, blood, flesh, and bone, and all of this. And that, this is us, this is ourself. And here's where this paradigm leaves us. And this is a good way to explain it. So this person is named Rob, and Rob isn't very smart. Rob's upbringing, history, and track record to date shows that he isn't much of an achiever, and his brain isn't as smart as other people's brains. Rob is introverted, he's shy, he's anxious, and he doesn't know much, and he's unable to change because that's just who Rob is. And this is what society's current paradigm sees things as. It sees things as, we're unable to change, and that's just who we are. And society has put such focus on defining individuals' identities from such a young age that it has created an extremely strong self-image and sense of character. And how we've done this is, things like driver's licenses. We've got names, we've got identity documents, birth certificates. They've all got our images on them, everything's documented. We've got report cards from school and from college, and, we carry a GPA and everything. We've got Facebook profiles which have timelines and histories and, images of us and our friends and everything. And you've got Instagram with more images, and then we've got all these forms which we fill out at the doctor's office, on the internet all the time we've got these forms. We have to check boxes, say different things about ourselves. And then we've got, crowds in society, and they're always saying things about us. They might be gossiping about us, they might have an opinion of us, we might have friends groups who know us as this particular person. And we've got all of these different things which define our identities. And this is Rob's history, all of these different things. And together it forms Rob's identity. And identities become so strong and defined over time that we believe that we are our identity. We believe that this is me. Me is this collection of all of these things over in the past. This is my identity. This is me. But here's the big question. What came first? The physical body and the brain, and then human consciousness and life as we experience it? Or human consciousness and then the illusion of the physical body? And our current paradigm and worldview has a bias towards this one. It has a bias towards the physical body. It believes that, we were born and then we have a consciousness. However, I propose a new paradigm and a new worldview and a new way of perceiving reality. And I propose a new paradigm and worldview that sits more on the side of illusion, but without forgetting about the other one entirely. In my paradigm, in my worldview, I believe that consciousness came first and then the illusion of the physical body, and that we can change anything in our physical reality with our minds. And I've proven that again and again and again and again. However, I am not extremely biased to the point where I say you can just forget entirely about your physical body, because you can't. I mean, it still needs to be healthy. Otherwise, before long, all you're going to be thinking about is your physical body, and it's going to ruin your thoughts, and then that's going to ruin your reality. And so, while society is hard-jammed biased on this side, I lean a bit more on this side, but in no way am I jammed on this side. I'm kind of just over the mark. If it was 50% in the middle, I'm kind of sitting on 60. And this is the new paradigm and worldview that I propose. And I want to introduce you to the Alchemy paradigm and worldview. This is my paradigm and worldview, and it's what I've used to completely change my life and make a lot of money, take control of things that were out of control, and really have a ton of fun and change everything, really. And the best way I can describe it in a sentence is that we spend our entire lives paralyzed as ourselves, dreaming of being somebody who we are not. It's natural, it's natural as humans to desire to become something more than who we are. We become ourselves, and there's nothing wrong with that. We go to school, we get these different friends, we believe all these different things, and this is ourself. But then it's natural to desire to become something more than who we are. And when we do that, these two selves are at war. There's who we want to be, and there's who we are right now. And this internal conflict causes a lot of pain. And we're paralyzed by it. We can't take action because it's outside of our comfort zone. It's not in alignment with who we are. So we don't do anything about it. But we regret not doing anything about it. And we spend our entire lives paralyzed as ourselves, dreaming of being somebody who we are not. And the greatest search of mankind is to learn how to transcend himself or herself, how to transcend itself, and to be free from the bounds of itself. This really is the greatest search of mankind. And here's Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and at the bottom we've got physiological needs like water, warmth, rest, safety needs, then belonging and love needs, then esteem needs and self-actualization, and then at the top we've got transcendence, which is when we transcend all needs of ourself and all basic needs, and we become whoever we want to be. Now let's discuss the alchemy paradigm differences from society's current paradigm. So here were the 7 things. It says 8, but here were the different things. Now we're going to go through each one. So societies will start off with misunderstanding in the psychology of the self and creation of the identity. So society's current paradigm believes that the self is the person and they are born that way and can't change. If you're just born and your genes define who you are, and your genetics and everything, and if your brain's stupid, then you're stupid. And the alchemy paradigm believes that the self is nothing but the summation of mental programming to form beliefs. And so whatever side you put rocks on these scales in your mind, that is whatever you will believe, and whatever you believe becomes yourself. So society believes the self is a physical thing, and with the alchemy paradigm, the self is just programming. And society's current paradigm believes that the self is the person and that they are left brain or right brain. They're either creative or logical, and they have a particular personality type. Like we did the Myers-Briggs test, the MBTI. And you might be an ENTP or an ESTJ or all of these different things. And that's just you. That's your personality. That's who you are. That's your character. But the alchemy paradigm believes that the self is nothing but the summation of mental programming to form beliefs. And left brain or right brain and any personality is a learned response from programming. So it doesn't matter if you're creative or logical. You can become the other one or you can become both. And it doesn't matter what your Myers-Briggs test is because you can change it. Scientists in society have believed that your personality is who you are, and if you're left brain or right brain, that's just who you are, but you can change. It's just programming. And the alchemy paradigm believes that the self is a character created by the mind, an illusion or a mask, and you can change yourself, and you can change your life from mental programming and stacking rocks on scales whatever way you like, and that nothing is static. So here's the flawed psychology of the self and creation of identity. So we've come to believe that people are born with it, they're naturals, it's in the family, and we've come to believe that we are somebody specific with an identity and characteristics that define us as a person, And we've come to believe that we are ourselves unable to change, and we should love ourselves just as we are without changing anything, and people don't change. Be yourself, stick to your roots, don't forget who you are, stay true to yourself, be authentic. These are all the words that we say in Western civilization and society. And this epidemic has been fueled by the Western world going through life trying to define the question, who am I? And people have been trying to find themselves by asking, who am I? And seeking out things that are like them. And they think, that's not me, this is me, these people are like me, I associate with this thing, and I am this person. And this sense of self and character gets very strong and defined over time, and we form an identity and we build our entire lives around things that confirm its existence. And the issue is, as humans, it's natural to desire more than who we are. We dream of improving and growing, and we form this image of our desired self. However, that's when all of the conflict comes. Every time we try to become this desired self, we are out of alignment with our current self, and that's when the chaos comes. And we live lives paralyzed as ourselves, dreaming and full of regret about who we could have been. And this is the Alchemy paradigm and worldview on it. The removal of the static self for the becoming self. So the Western world has cemented beliefs like be yourself, stick to your roots, don't forget where you came from, and don't lose yourself in the pursuit of success. But have you ever stopped to think about who you really are? And where is this thing you call the self? And the self doesn't exist. It's merely your clinging to an identity built up of stories about the past. And every person in the world wants to improve and grow, and that's impossible when you don't want to lose yourself. And it's been my observation that the only way to achieve success is to become the person who deserves it. And when we become this new person, we are no longer ourselves. And you see, this is the issue with Western philosophy. We believe we are something when we aren't anything. And the only question that's important is, who are we becoming? Who are you becoming? It's not who are you, it's not who am I, it's who are we becoming? So that's the first one crossed off. Misunderstanding in the psychology of the self and creation of the identity. I'm sure you understand that one right now. It's not who am I, it's who am I becoming? And the self doesn't exist. The self is just the summation of mental programming. It's just, your mind's an on-off system. It's just whatever way you've stacked the rocks, and you can stack them different ways. And number 2 is a bias towards the material and the physical. So society's current paradigm believes that things are all physical. They're material. You can touch them and knock on them, like this desk. It's hard. It's physical. I can touch this thing. And so we believe that that's a tree. Trees are trees. They're hard. They're physical. They're there. And desk is a desk, and a person is a person made up of flesh and blood and bone and all of that. And we also believe that, a person is separate from a tree. There's distance in between them, and the person has nothing to do with the tree has nothing to do with the person. They're separate things. And, we believe that we are separate from objects. If you look at an object on your desk right now, like I can look at this cup of tea here, I'm looking at it, and, there's space in between me and the cup of tea. We're separate. I can't influence the cup of tea, that cup of tea can't influence me. And society's current paradigm leans on the bias of physical and material. So it believes that, the physical and the material is there, and it believes that it's the most important. And it believes that, nothing is really mental, everything is just physical, material, mechanical. And this leaves us feeling all alone in the world, and at risk of things outside of our control. When I believed this, I was constantly afraid. I was constantly afraid of, what if I get sick? What if I'm in some accident? What if I go somewhere dangerous? What if I slip over and hurt myself? And what if what if my business fails? And what if all of this different stuff? There were so many different things that could go wrong. I was like horrified. It was terrifying. And I was also like, why am I so alone? Like, I'm in this huge world and so disconnected from everything. However, quantum physics shows us that these things aren't really things. If what we see with our eyes is a tree and a desk and a person, however, if we zoom right in under a microscope, these things aren't really things at all. They're just a bunch of atoms spinning around. And it's mostly nothing. It's like 80% nothing. There's a lot of space in between these atoms. And so a desk, which we think is a desk and that we can touch and it's hard, if we zoom right in with a microscope, it's actually just a bunch of atoms spinning around. And so with the new alchemy paradigm and worldview, I propose a new paradigm that views life as an illusion created by the mind that is built up from programming and beliefs. So I believe when we look around that, this cup of tea is nothing but particles just spinning around, and it's just my mental programming that perceives this as something physical which I can touch and feel and everything. And all of life and what we can see as reality is nothing but a magnificent illusion created by our own mind. When I walk around outside and I look around, I'm like, wow, this thing looks very real. This all looks very real. And isn't it magnificent? How real it really is. But, really I know deep down inside and in my mind that it's not really real. It's an illusion. And not an illusion to the point where I'm like, oh, this is just stupid. I'm just, there's no point in playing this game. It's, this is life. It's like you want to make the most of it. But the awesome thing about realizing that life is nothing but an illusion is that you can change it. You can influence it. You can push it and it will move. And so when you view reality like this, it's like you've hacked the game. It's like you can start changing things. You can change yourself. You can change your situation. If you're poor, you can make yourself wealthy. If you're shy, you can make yourself outgoing. If you're not very smart, you can make yourself a genius. You can change things around when you view reality as the illusion that it is. And all of life and what we see as reality is nothing but a magnificent illusion created by our own mind. And so that is the second one. So far I've shown you two of society's biases in its current paradigm, and I've shown you the new alchemy paradigm and worldview. Now, number 3, false perceptions of entitlement and authority. So we have grading systems that are limited, pass, fail, A, B, C, D, 0 to 100%, and not achieved, achieved, merit, excellence, and uneducated, high school educated, bachelor's degree educated, or master's degree or PhD, or first in class out of 30 people, and qualified or not qualified. We have these grading systems that are very limited. There's a cap, there's a ceiling. And most people think distribution looks like this. You've got the lower class, the middle class, and then the rich people, and it's linear. And we think that there's not that much of a gap between the lower and the middle, and not that much of a gap between the middle and the rich. And it's like, okay, that's it. And we believe that there's, just a linear curve in between non-educated, educated, MBA, and PhD. But, most people have no idea. And MBAs and PhDs aren't even on the map. And any form of qualification is a false sense of entitlement because it makes the person think that they're qualified and deserve reward from the market. And the market is a fair judge of value, and it has a habit of rewarding those who have value and giving nothing to those that do not. And when qualified people don't get what they want from the market, they say the system is vulgar and bankrupt and they deserve to be paid more, but they just don't get it, and they need to wake up. So society's current paradigm falls on the bias of certificate-optimized education or degree-optimized education. And it believes that certificates and degrees deserve financial reward and respect. That's the current bias. However, I propose, with the new alchemy paradigm and worldview, I propose a new paradigm which forgets certifications entirely. And it optimizes education around market results. So our entire, education system has been optimizing around certification. It's been like, we've got to change the education system and we've got to change the study habits, and the people going into these education systems, they need to be mindful of the outcome, which is the certificate. And that's what you optimize your study for. And that's how students are optimizing their study. They're passing around past exam papers. They're trying to hack, education to try and get the best grades. But then they go out into society and into the real world, and it doesn't really work very well for them. And they wonder how people who are uneducated kick their ass. And they're like, what? How does this happen? This isn't like getting test results. And it's because the market's totally different than a certificate. The market doesn't care if you have a certificate or not. And so the market is, the population of the world. It's like when you try to sell something or buy something, that's the market. And my education systems, like this program, they're optimized around the market. So in my programs, like Consulting Accelerator, I don't have a certification program, nor will I ever have one, because I'm an activist against those, and I'm an activist towards market-optimized education. So I want all of my students and all of us in this community to optimize our learning and our habits and our behaviors and everything around the market. And that's what we optimize for. And through optimizing it to the market, that's how I've been able to get people such profound results. As of, right now, we've had people from Yale, Stanford, what else have we had? Oxford, all the Ivy League things, and not just normal degrees. We've had people that did MBAs and PhDs from those Ivy League places. And they've come into this and said, this is way better. And, that blows me away. And the reason why this has happened is because I've optimized all of my education systems and everything around market results, real world results, like getting clients, making money, changing yourself, changing your life. Whereas society's current education systems have optimized around the certification. And so that's the third one, crossed off. Now, dualism and the perception of one right and one wrong. So mankind's big question, what is right and what is wrong? And what is the right way and the wrong way to live? And here's the current state of how we are divided. Right and wrong. We believe that, making money and being a billionaire on Wall Street is wrong, and, just meditating is right. And we believe that being at the beach is right and relaxing in nature is right, but being in the city is wrong. And we believe that, being in that history is more right than visions of the future. History tells us everything, but visions of the future, they don't tell us anything. And we believe that eating vegetables and fruit and all of this is healthy and right, and that eating a greasy cheeseburger like this is wrong. And we believe that, going to university and getting good grades and qualifying and, graduating is right, and that dropping out of college is wrong. And we believe that, being happy is right and being sad is wrong. And we believe that science is right and, religion is wrong. And we believe that giving money to charity is right, and that, being a greedy billionaire smoking cigars and walking around in $100,000 suits is wrong. And we believe that going on adventures in nature and hiking up mountains is right, and being in the office, grinding and making sales calls and making money and being behind the computer is wrong. And here's dualism and the perception of one right and one wrong. So our mind is a programmable on-off system that divides thoughts, memories, and experiences into categories such as me or not me, right and wrong, for and against, good and evil, past and future, friend and enemy, true and false, and this division of opposites is the only way we can make sense of things, and it's called dualism or duality. And we grow up thinking, who am I? And every experience, memory, and thought stacks a rock on one side of the scales, me or not me, right and wrong, and good or bad. And over time, this sense of self and identity gets very strong and defined, and we define ourselves as a particular person, unable to change. And society develops the same way we do ourselves, except as a collective group of the individuals within it. And society develops over time thinking, who are we? And every experience, memory, and thought stacks a rock on one side of the scales, right or wrong, good or bad, like us or our enemy. And as a collective group, society develops a sense of identity unable to change. And dualism is the cause of all conflict within you as a person, and dualism is the cause of all conflict within the world as a society. And the solution in the alchemy paradigm or worldview way is to become non-binary in balancing your poles. So we must understand the nature of our own mind and the dualism experienced by the division of opposites. So we must understand that all conflict within ourselves, society, business, and everywhere else exists through resistance to change. And we understand that the key to all evolution is variation, and the thing that slows it down and causes problems is a clinging to identity built up from stories of the past. And we must let go of who we currently are to become of who we want to be. And that involves doing things which we have ignored, judged, and victimized with our current self and its identity. And we understand that holding a firm side on anything while ignoring the opposite will require us to eventually face the opposite. And this is why we must understand the dualism that exists in our own mind and lose the binary stance of one true right and wrong and one true me and not me. And if you want to evolve as a person and grow into a better version of yourself in life and in business, you must consider the side of you that is hidden in the dark and bring it into light. And if you're an introvert, it's time to speak up. If you're an extrovert, it's time to quietly reflect. And if you've never been smart, it's time to become a genius. And if you've been anti-science, it's time to look at science. And if you've been anti-religion, it's time to look at religion. And if you've been money-obsessed, it's time to look at spirituality. And if you've only considered spirituality and ignored money, it's time to start making money. We have to balance our poles, because when we just do one thing and ignore the opposite, we are eventually forced to face the opposite. And that is dualism and the perception of one right and one wrong. Then, contradiction of the two sciences. So we've got classical physics, which I've told you about, which is things are things. That's a tree, that's a desk, that's a person. These are things and they're physical, we can touch them. But quantum physics says these things aren't really things, they're more atoms spinning around, and they're mostly nothing at all. And classical physics is what we see with our eyes and touch with our hands, and quantum physics is what we see when we zoom right in with a microscope. And the best way I can describe it is with this small analogy here. So imagine going into the woods and then observing a tree fall down right in front of you. And you see it all happen, and it makes a thud sound when it hits the ground. Now imagine we could wind back time, and except this time you don't go into the woods, you wait at the forest edge and hang out there for the day. Well, does that tree still fall over? Does it still make a sound? Well, society's current paradigm says, yes, it most certainly does. But quantum physics says that particles are essentially everywhere and nowhere until somebody observes them. And only at the point of observation do particles take a specific state and position, which means that we actually don't know whether the tree falls down or not unless we are there to observe it, which we're not because we're at the forest edge. And only at the point of observation do particles take a specific state and position. So what does this all mean? And what does this have to do with business? Well, do you remember my obsession about discovering the interconnectedness of things? What makes one subject tie to another subject? What about my thoughts and the outcome of a call? How can how can one subject have anything to do with another subject? They're separate. And how can what I think have any effect to the outcome of a call? And how can me watching something have an effect on the actual ad's performance? And how can my results have an effect on the results of my clients if they're separate? Well, at a microscopic level, these are all particles. One subject, another subject, my thoughts and the outcome of a call, and my observation and my ad's performance, and my results and my client's results. And society's current paradigm falls on the bias of classical physics and believes that we are physical beings separate from our environment with no interconnection. And the alchemy paradigm. Well, I propose a new paradigm which believes that we are not physical beings but wave forms of light, experiencing a consciousness and viewing reality as an illusion created by our mind and interconnected to everything in the universe. So, pretty different stuff here. And so that's the contradiction of the two sciences. Now we've got birth of the victim and their story. So society's current paradigm believes that other people and other forces are the cause for all misfortune, suffering, and pain. And we have come to see winning as something to be quiet about, and people who discuss winning are seen as show-offs or up themselves. And we've come to see strugglers and losers as people who deserve our attention. And we listen to their stories and we sympathize with them. We're like, oh, it's okay that you didn't win. Oh, I understand. Yeah, it was really hard. It's not your fault. And society's current paradigm falls on the bias of believing the victim and their story and giving them sympathy, as well as blaming others for their misfortune. And I propose a new paradigm that views losers as people who need no sympathy, and they need to pick themselves up off the floor and get back in the game to win. I believe that everyone can win. I believe that people who create a story about why they can't win, they've made up an excuse about why they can't, and now they're stuck there. And they want to win. Everyone wants to win deep down. And everyone can. But as soon as you play the victim, as soon as you create the story, you lose forever. And as soon as you start feeding the victim by giving them sympathy, it's literally just like feeding an addiction. It's like feeding a drug addict more drugs. It only makes it worse. You can't feed a victim sympathy. They have to pick themselves up off the floor and get back in the game. And that's the alchemy paradigm. And in society we've come to, if someone wins, we're like, oh, that person's a show-off. And if someone loses, we're like, we give that person all the attention. But, it should be the other way around. We should be giving the winners the attention, and the people who aren't winning, they just need to make a decision to pick themselves up and get in the game. And if life has you pinned up against the rope in a corner, you have to grow some teeth and fight back with all you've got. And don't ever play victim and believe the story. Don't believe the story. Don't create the story. Don't play the victim. You've got to grow some teeth and get in the fight and fight back with everything that you've got. And so that's the birth of the victim and their story. And then mistaken view of cause and effect. So we believe that, society's current paradigm believes that a person is separate from a tree. There's space in between these things. They are separate. They are not interrelated. And we believe that we are separate from an object, and the space in between is distance. And society's current paradigm views what's out there as separate from what's in here in our own mind. We can't influence separate things from us with our minds. And society's current paradigm understands the concept of physical cause and effect, but not mental cause and effect. And if you remember back to seeing for the first time that video in week 2, we discussed quantum entanglement of particles and how for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. Action, reaction. If one particle has a negative spin, the other particle has a positive spin, and so on and so forth. And we discussed these things. For every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. And the mirror and how your judgments are simply an outwards reflection of your own insecurities. And how people don't have business problems, they have personal problems that reflect in their business. And the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And we become our lowest standards, not our highest dreams. And as above, so below, and so below as above. It's just for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. This is how it works. This is how the universe works. And there's also feedback loops where, cause and effect aren't separate from each other. They both feed each other. So a cause will create an effect will feed back into a cause. And feedback loops occur when the effect from a particular cause loops around and feeds back in as another stronger or weaker cause. And when this happens, the cause and effect relationship becomes self-fulfilling, and it amplifies or weakens exponentially. And mental feedback loops occur when one thought causes an effect of more thought, which then creates more thought and sets off a vicious self-fulfilling cycle. So what one thinks is what one thinks about, and what one thinks about is what one thinks. And it just keeps going around and around and around. And a mental feedback loop can build you up to become invincible, or it can break you down to the point where you're so depressed and sad that you consider taking your own life. And society's current paradigm falls on this heavy bias. It's cause and effect is what we see when we whack a nail with a hammer. The cause is the hammer slamming, and the effect is the nail driving into the wood. And there is no cause and effect with the mind, and feedback loops don't exist. However, the alchemy paradigm and worldview, and the way I believe things are, is cause and effect is mental. And what we observe in the outside world is a reflection of what we hold in our mind. And as above, so below. So for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. Judge others, others will judge you. And cause and effect goes in a feedback loop exponentially up or down. And that is the mistaken view of cause and effect. So that's the alchemy paradigm and worldview. And it's an entirely new paradigm to use to perceive reality in an entirely different way. And it's so profound, it's like seeing for the first time. And all of life and what we see as reality is nothing but a magnificent illusion created by our own mind. And what we see and experience in life is not reality. It's more reality exposed to our method of questioning. And simply put, your hypothesis affects your outcome. And your current situation is your hypothesis. So, in life you have to set a hypothesis. It's like what you think is going to happen. Well, my current situation is this, and if I take this action, then I think I'm going to get this outcome. And then that's your hypothesis. Then you've got your action, and your action is the action that you take. And then the new situation is, the outcome that you've got from having your current situation and then applying your action, and now you can experience it. And then you get to experience it, and then you get feedback, and the feedback is what happened. And then that feedback feeds back around into the cause. And you listen to that feedback, and then you adjust your belief, and then you adjust your hypothesis, and then you adjust your action. And each time you keep going around and around and around and around. And each time you listen to that feedback, each time you change that current situation and that hypothesis, and you change that action, and each time you get closer and closer to the truth, and each time you get closer and closer to what works and what doesn't. And that's how you get successful. Not just in life, but in sports and in everything. This is the master algorithm of everything. The universal theory of everything. And so, to put this in perspective, and to really cement this understanding, $500 in the bank could be your current situation, and your hypothesis might be, I want to start a consulting business. And then the action is that you start a consulting business. And then you experience the reality, and that's that you don't get clients yet, but you learn some lessons. And with those new lessons, you get feedback, and that feeds back around. And then the next time is you have a new hypothesis. I want to start a consulting business, but this time around I'm going to have to, I'm going to have to get on the phone. I'm going to have to do some sales calls. So then you do some sales calls, and then your action is doing the sales calls, and then your new reality might be, oh, you got a sale this time. Okay, so you receive that feedback, and it comes back around, and now you're like, okay, I'm going to do more sales calls. And this is how it happens. And this is the most important statement that you can possibly understand and remember and write down. And it doesn't matter what is true, only what you believe is true, because with work, that will become true. And we have this feedback loop thing like this in life, the master algorithm. And you must intervene with your beliefs. You intervene here by changing your thoughts and then your beliefs. Then you take massive action here in confidence with your new beliefs. Then you experience your new reality becoming. And then you listen to the feedback. And then you change your beliefs, and then you change your actions to optimize. And you go around and around and around and around. You keep repeating, you keep taking action, you keep adjusting your beliefs, you keep experiencing your reality, and you keep listening to feedback. And that is the master algorithm of everything in life. That's the master algorithm of business, success, everything. That is how you become an animal. That is how you become relentless and you achieve whatever you want to achieve. And here's where people have gone wrong. So people don't set a hypothesis, and they don't take any action, and they don't listen to any feedback. And some people set a hypothesis, and they don't take any action, and they don't receive any feedback. And then some people set a hypothesis, then they take action, but they don't listen to any feedback. And the correct way to do it, the correct way to govern the master algorithm of all evolution and everything, is that you must set a hypothesis. Then you must take action. Then you must listen to the feedback and then iterate and improve by repeating. That is how you win. Not in just business, in life, in sports, in everything. That is how you win. And it doesn't matter what is true, only what you believe is true, because with work that will become true. And all you think you are is an identity that your mind created, and the optimization engine is jammed. And you have to learn to take off the mask and realize that you can become whoever you want to be in life. And as Shakespeare said, all the world is a stage, and we are merely actors. And to be or not to be is the question you have to ask yourself when it comes to your mask and choice of character. And the question is, who are you becoming? And it doesn't matter what is true, only what you believe is true, because with work, that will become true. And this took me, an entire lifetime to figure out and put together. And when I did it, it changed my life more than I can possibly put into words or explain. I went from being someone who was shy and anxious and couldn't get out of bed and couldn't leave the house. And I was completely broke. I thought I was stupid, and history said that I was, so did everyone else. And I was able to completely change it. So the point now where I'm making more than $20 million a year, and Forbes put me in the Forbes 30 under 30 the other week, and they valued my net worth at $65 million US dollars, which is almost 100 million New Zealand dollars. It's about 95 million. And that's more than I could ever imagine. 65 million US, that's quite a lot of money for 27. I'll easily have more than 100 million by the time I'm 28. And I'll have way more than 500 million by the time I'm 30. And so, this isn't just some crazy paradigm which I just cooked up. This took me an entire lifetime. If I had to estimate how many hours of study and research I've put into this, I would probably say around 30 or 40,000 hours. And it's changed my life more than I can possibly imagine. And it can really do the same for you. And I'm sure this new paradigm will change your life too. So welcome to your new reality. And, we've discussed all the things about society's current paradigm. We've gone through them all. We've discussed why it's wrong, how it's limiting people, how it's limiting you, your life, your success, your finances, everything. And here is what I believe, and here is what, here is the new paradigm which I'm introducing to the world. And the way I see it is that, reality is an extremely popular delusion. And so what happens is when someone goes crazy, when someone goes insane, we say that that person is delusional. And, it's really, how are we to know that they're delusional? How are we to know that we're not the delusional ones and they're not the sane ones? And the only thing that really we can say is that why we're insane and why we're sane and why that person is insane is because a lot of us believe that we're sane. And just because a lot of us believe something doesn't mean that it's true. In fact, in a lot of studies and a lot of things, the more people that believe something, the more it's likely to not be true. So the way I see it, the world the way I see it, is that everything we believe is real, and everything that we see and experience in reality, it's just an extremely popular delusion. And all of life is a delusion. It's just this one's extremely popular. And it's been built up of thousands and thousands of years of programming. And here's what I believe in the new alchemy paradigm and worldview. So the self is nothing but an illusion built from mental programming. And all of life is simply a magnificent illusion created by your mind. And the only true judge of success is when it is put to test in the market. So there's no merit for certificates, no merit for qualifications, no merit for history. The only test is when you put something to the market and you test it. And there is not one definitive right and wrong, just what is popular belief at the time. So we can say, sure, at this moment in time, in this society, this is considered right. But in another society, it might be considered wrong. And at a different point in time, it might be considered wrong. And so there is no such thing as one right and one wrong. It changes. And physical science is an illusion of, it's the really material. Everything material is essentially just, the illusion. And quantum science is the mind's material in which it makes that illusion come real. And the victim always has a story about why they can't do something, why they can't win. And the victim is the worst person to play in this world because it's a character that gives away its own control. It's amazing to live this life as the character and the master, because you get to control your character and get it to do whatever you want to do. And that's when you've really conquered life and you can achieve anything you want. However, it's a very sad story when the character believes that the master is someone else and it isn't in control of itself. And that's what a victim is, and its story is the reason why it believes that. And the winner never has a story. When the winner gets knocked down, it's their fault. When the winner is sad with their situation, they did it. The winner takes full responsibility for their life in their current situation, and they take full responsibility for what they're going to achieve. And every action has an equal and opposite reaction, not just in the physical world, but in the mental world. Our inside thoughts reflect on the outside. If we judge others, others will judge us. And, if we believe someone's wrong about something, then we'll often need to do that thing which we think is wrong to achieve success. And every action has an equal and opposite reaction. As above, so below. So below as above. And it doesn't matter what is true, only what you believe is true, because with work, that will become true. And so this is my paradigm and worldview. It's taken me a lifetime to put together. I never thought I'd share this, but the more I've helped people in my mastermind and everything with this, the more I've seen such profound changes. And this truly changed my life more than I can possibly explain. And I've studied billionaires, I've studied everything. You know, I'm like a dog with a bone when it comes to my thirst for knowledge and information. I have a thirst for knowledge and information like no one else on earth. And it has taken me more hours than you can imagine to figure all of this stuff out. And so this is the new paradigm and worldview which I am bringing to the world, and which I believe is the solution to all of our problems which we have right now, and also all of society's problems and this world's problems. So I hope you enjoy this new paradigm and worldview. I'm sure it's going to change your life like nothing else for the better. And this concludes this video where I've introduced the new paradigm and worldview. And the next video, Rolling God's Loaded Dice, is where we talk about taking action on this. So, Rolling God's Loaded Dice, this next video which is coming up, this is the most important video and the best video of them all in week 2. And in Rolling God's Loaded Dice, I tell you how you can play with the loaded dice and how you can, really hack your own reality to achieve anything which you want to achieve. And we're pretty much done with the theory now, and in Rolling God's Loaded Dice, we're just talking about action. So I'm going to show you my routines, my habits. I'm going to expose to you some of my programming, which I do to myself every morning and every night. I'm going to show you my daily routine. I'm going to show you how I structure my calendar. I'm going to show you everything I do and everything which I do on a daily basis to get my mind into this state so that I can go out there and win, and so that I can be relentless, and that I can, do things which are considered, physically impossible by other people. So thanks for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. And make sure you watch the next one, because it is a big one, and it's where we're going to start putting this all into action for you, and it's going to change your life. Thanks.